Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. And our first story is the rare case of a worker taking revenge on his boss in a very tough way. But before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. The best revenge is doing well. About 15 years ago, I had a horrible boss. This guy was an a-hole and liked it. It went beyond being demanding or easy to anger. He actually took pleasure in trying to humiliate and belittle everyone in every single conversation he had with them. He was a director, and he let it go to his head. This guy would demand you do something, and when you did it, demand to know who told you to do it. And when you said it was him, he'd smile and threaten your job. I avoided him the best I could. However, at one point, a posting in another state opened up, and I wanted the job. I asked for and was given said posting. I was told to be in that state in 2 weeks. I broke the lease on my apartment and paid the difference. My wife quit her job. We went out there on our own dime and found a place to live. 2 days before we were set to move, I get the call. It's a-hole boss. Don't bother going out there. I've decided to eliminate the posting. I was livid. My life was totally interrupted, and when I complained, I was told I had an attitude problem. I stewed for a few days, but then found a position at another company in the state I wanted to be in and moved out there anyway. I came to find out that eventually the a-hole director took another job at the competition. All went well for a while, but then he got greedy and began negotiations with yet another company using his corporate email address, like a effing idiot. They obviously found out and fired him, but the icing on the cake was that the other company he was talking to never gave him the job after all. So there he was, jobless. This was pleasure enough for me. Through a friend who knows the a-hole, I found out that he never seemed to get a job after that. 6 months went by, then 12, then 18, then 2 years, then 4 years. He got poorer and poorer. His hot wife left him and took the children with her. He was sleeping in an empty house, which was eventually foreclosed, and he got kicked out of. At this point, things get fuzzy, because even my friend didn't know where he was. He may have been in the street. He may have moved in with his aging mother. Meanwhile, my own career had been an upward arc, and I was climbing higher up that corporate ladder. It wasn't long before his resume ended up on my desk. It's a small industry. Normally, I would have tossed out his application because everyone and their mother in this business knew he was caught courting the competition on the company dime. His reputation as a total jerk was well known. And the job he applied for was low level. I mean, $10 an hour, low level grunt work. He was a former director at 6 figures and now was willing to work crappy work at a crappy wage just to feed himself. Anyone would have considered him overqualified, including me. But I had to have him in my office. I wanted to see him on the other side of my desk asking me for breadcrumbs like a common street beggar. I wanted to see this a-hole who nearly ruined my and a dozen other lives and laughed at it, groveling for a job at my effing feet. So, of course, I scheduled an interview. I was going to waste his time like he wasted mine. It was one of the most pleasurable experiences I've ever had. He pretended not to recognize me, but I could see that he did. He'd gotten skinnier and reeked of desperation. He had no idea that I knew the whole story. So he lied to me about the whole reason he was out of work, and when I told him exactly why, he looked defeated. I told him I had no place for a liar, let alone an a-hole, and when he tried to shake my hand at the end of the interview, I refused and asked him to leave. There's an old saying, you see the same people on the way down as on the way up. And our next story. Did you get it in writing? I used to work as a medic in the Canadian oil patch. Good job for the most part. It pays more and is less stressful than ground ambulance. I did a few years responding to 9/11 calls and then took some time off to live in New Zealand. When I came back to Canada, I was strapped for cash and looked to get back to work quickly, so I took a job with the first company that called me back. Interview goes well, I get a start date, a daily wage rate, and for the time, I couldn't be happier. Doing this job was a piece of cake. Basically, it involves sitting in a truck with an MTC, mobile treatment center, stuffed in the box. Think of a pickup truck with a camper. Most of the reason medical staff is required has to do with OHS legislation. If you're X amount of time from a hospital and doing high-risk work, you need dedicated EMS. I spent 20 hours a day away from home at this remote work site where they were fracking gas wells, and by the 20th day, I couldn't wait to get home. I was excited to get my first real paycheck in nearly a year and planning on first paying off some bills, then getting blackout drunk. This is where crap went sideways on me. I tore open the mailbox like a child on Christmas morning. Grabbing my check, I head down to the bank. Opening the letter, I froze. WTF, I'm missing over $1,000. A cursory glance at my attached pay stub revealed I was getting paid $75 per day less than I expected. Okay, I think to myself, must be a mistake. I'm sure they'll rectify it for me. The next day, I went down to the office and met with the butthead manager and a few other people. We sat down and talked it over, and I asked if it was a mistake and when could I expect to have the rest of my pay. AM looked at me squarely and said, "You won't be getting that extra money. I have discussed it with the rest of management, and we have agreed no one told you you'd be getting $400 a day. We only pay $325 to start." Well, I'm not saying you all told me I would start at $400. You told me I would get $400 the day you hired me. He always had this creepy little smirk on his face, and I began to understand the underlying reason. Kind of looked like the pedo smile. Smirking at me, he began, "Why would I start you at the top wage? We have nowhere to go. You wouldn't be able to get a raise, and that wouldn't be fair now, would it?" I replied, "That doesn't bother me. Besides, you told me I would get $400. With that smirk still plastered across his face, he said, "I don't remember that. Did you get it in writing?" At this point, I knew he got one over on me, and while internally livid, I tried not to betray any emotion. No, I guess I didn't. "Well, there you go. So let's get this settled while you're here. You'll get $325 as a day rate, and we're all in agreement. Is that okay? Can you live on that?" I agreed without too much fanfare and left wordlessly, cursing him and his progeny down the generation. I started looking for jobs immediately, as I'm not about to continue working for that a-hole if I don't have to, but remembering at the same time I'm not suited for unemployment. 3 days into my scheduled 10 off, I get a call from AM. "Hi, Astacast, can you work tomorrow? I've got a job and our medic's sick. It's really important. They're doing a large gas frac in the morning." "Sure," I say. "Great. You'll have to come by tonight and grab a truck. I won't be there, so I'll give you the gate code to the yard and leave the keys in the gas cap. You need to drive out to the site tonight and be there for the 6 a.m. start." "You bet, boss," I said, barely keeping my voice even. At this point, I decided to say, F it, unemployment isn't all that bad. Fast forward to 7 a.m. the next day. The phone call I was expecting from AM arrives. "Where the F are you?" "What do you mean?" "You needed to be at the job site at 6 a.m. I just got a call from the oil company. Where the F are you?" "I'm at home." "What? You were going on the job. We talked last night." I don't remember this. Did you get it in writing?" I promptly hung up and then turned my phone off. Now they couldn't start that job, and it was my company's fault. If you know anything about fracking, it's hella expensive, and they ended up having to pay for all the labor costs during the delay. I got threats of legal action and such, so I know it cost them thousands. I hope it was worth it. I don't burn my bridges. I take off and nuke them from orbit. It's the only way to make sure. It's been almost 8 years. That company eventually folded, and nothing ever came of their saber rattling. I still get a good chuckle when I imagine that a-hole going red in the face. And our third story. Don't lie to clerks. They just might be the manager. I run a small charity thrift store. Really, there are only 2 staff members, myself, the general retail manager for the organization, and a part-time clerk. We don't offer a dealer price or courtesy like some stores, even though customers still try. Now, my name tag only has my name, not my title as general manager. This is important to the story. Liar dealer lady. "I'm ready to check out." Thrift store Betty. "All right, would you like a bag today?" "No, that's fine. Just so you know, I have a deal with the manager to get the employee pricing on my purchases." Really? I don't have any notes about that. Can you tell me who you made the deal with? Part-time clerk? Charity worker? "Neither of them. The manager." "I'm sorry, I just don't know anything about that." "Don't make me call her and tell her how terrible you're treating me." "You know what? I'll give her a call and get this straightened out for you, no problem." Note, I've already picked up the phone and started to dial my own cell phone number. "Wait, don't." I answered my own cell phone. "This is Thrift Store Betty with Charity Thrift Store." Talking into the store phone, "Hi, this is Thrift Store Betty from the thrift store calling. I have LDL here, and she says she has a deal worked out with you to get employee pricing. How do I process that?" "What? No." "What? Oh my God." She started to turn bright red and got super huffy and stormed out. I started laughing my butt off. Totally unprofessional, but seriously, don't lie to clerks. You look like a major a-hole. Also, LDL shops here off and on and always tries to get a discount. Always. So this was some petty revenge bullcrap, but worth it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.